We're live? All right, everyone, we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled Mayor and Council meeting for the Town of Berlin. It's Monday, August 28th, 2023. Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, Steve noted we moved the flag, so we have to keep everybody on their toes. All right, so up next is agenda item 1A, which is the consent agenda.
I have a correction, a correction for this is regular session, page 14 in the packet. Let's see. Okay, so above the vote tally there, on the motion of Councilmember Orr, second by Councilmember, it's just a minor spelling error, Councilmember Nur. There's two R's, not near.
What?
I know.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And somewhere I say my name is Dean Williams.
You know, he's that famous movie star. I mean,
Is it in this section?
No, it was in something that just came through recently. Yeah.
It wasn't in the minutes, it was in something else.
Somewhere I say my name is Dean
are you
Williams.
sure it's you and not Dean Williams though?
All right, so is that the only
That's the only
correction?
one. And with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Orr with the amendment.
Second.
So I have a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that both sets of minutes passed with the amendment unanimously with all council members present. Up next is agenda item number 2, which is a presentation by the Business, Economic, and Community Outreach Network, Beacon, regarding our strategic plan. And we have Jessica Iacona, who is the Assistant Director, and John Hickman, who is the Director of Beacon, here with us this evening. So before we get into that discussion or the presentation, I want to note that the town has an outdated strategic plan. I think it dates back to 2018 on our website. The council has recognized the need and the importance of a strategic plan for the town. With that, funding has been placed in the ARPA spending plan. And the proposal that you'll have this evening as an action item falls within the available funds of the ARPA spending plan. But I wanted to say thank you to everyone for that. Additionally, a strategic plan helps get us closer to, and Natalie just came in on a drum roll, hopefully aligning our spending to our strategic outcomes, or in some way getting us closer to the general, GFOA's Distinguished Budget Award. So I'll turn it over to John Hickman and Jessica Iacona.
All right, thank you all for having us in here tonight. I'll just start by maybe, for those of you who aren't familiar with Beacon, a little history. Beacon has been a research entity of the Business School at Salisbury University for over 30 years. We've done a range of projects from strategic planning for community entities, for businesses, for municipalities over those years. One of the key components of what we do, you'll see within our proposal, is we include students in our work product. I'm proud to say Jess here is one of those students that comes through, learns, applies what they're learning in the classroom to real world business situations. They work under the guidance of our staff, and if we need to bring in assistance from other professors on campus, we will. In fact, we're starting a strategic planning process that we're bringing in another conflict entity to help with some conflicts in that strategic planning process. Just a little history on me. I've been with Beacon for 2 years now. Before that was with the Small Business Development Center. Before that, in my history, worked with several startups And Jess, why don't you?
Yeah, so John kind of touched on it a little bit. I've been with Beacon for 7 years now, or almost 7. Started as an undergraduate research assistant, worked through my master's with Beacon, and pretty much told them I wasn't leaving. And stayed on as a project manager and now associate director.
Yeah, so a couple of recent projects that may fit within some of the scope of this. In Chrisfield, last year we worked with them on some community visioning around where they wanted the town to go. Less in-depth than what a strategic plan is, but give them some focus areas. Wycomico Health Department, we did an extensive strategic plan revision for them. And on the governmental side, assisted the Maryland Pension Board with coming up with their strategic direction about 4 years ago. Purpose of your strategic plan, the mayor touched on this, but it's number one to look at what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities the town faces. What strategies will you use to address those? And then how are you going to apply assets, as Mayor talked in budgeting to do that, and other assets? It may be effort that you have from town staff, it may be community partners that help meet those strategic directions. And then finally, to be able to set a way of measuring your progress on that. So our process in this that we've proposed is a 3-part process that gives a feedback loop in there for the whole council. We recognize the difference between when we're working for a private entity, we've got a lot less voices that are going to be heard, but also the process of doing it, you can do it probably in a more abbreviated fashion because it's at some level someone's boss that says you're going to go and participate in the strategic plan. So our approach is that we cast a wide net for views. You've seen we want to do a survey of the town citizens, some key informant calls, and interviews with each of you, along with department heads in the town to understand what their focus is, what are pressure points. We understand, complying with open meeting laws, so in the makeup of that committee, that's part of that phasing process. It allows the collection of data, the ability to come to you all, and you all within an open meeting have an open discussion about that. The mayor touched on it. With the budgeting process, and if you apply for the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget, they want to see that your budget is tied in with a strategic plan. You have a way of measuring progress on those initiatives and tying spending, and this is in corporations, one of the things, I just talking with someone, if you're going to invest assets into something, it should be something that you've said, this is something that we want to do. This is an important strategy for us as a company. It's the same for you as a town. So, just timeline, I will say this is, there's a kind of best case, worst case. My guess is each of the phases, 2 to 3 months, it will be about the timeline that it takes. I understand we've got a holiday period that comes in there that's going to present some interruption, but our goal is to keep on that pace of 2 to 3 months. And then the hiccup in there is those have to align with the period with which you're having a council meeting for us to have it for you, to have you review, and us meeting. So there's some constraints and timeline, but we're going to do our best to keep on a pace, both from our perspective in proposing this and for your perspective in getting something in place.
Thank you. Any questions for John or Justin?
Yeah, I just had 2 or 3 1,000 comments, no, I'm kidding. So I see you're doing a SWOT.
floor is yours.
Yeah, I see you're doing a SWOT analysis, that's pretty cool. I guess my questions more are in phase 2. And then you mentioned something in the middle. Let's develop a list, work with the client to develop a list of key constituent stakeholders and a listening session in Berlin with a limited targeted group of representative stakeholders. And then number 8 would be work with the mayor to develop a subgroup composed of elected officials, key department leaders, and constituent group representatives. So I guess my first question would be, what is considered a constituent stakeholder?
So John and I and Jessica tabletop that a little bit, but it's really open. We hit some of the industry leaders in the area, such as hospital, education, faith-based folks, some of our other partners. I don't have the full list in front of me, but
The nonprofit world, public safety.
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce would be, some of the makeup of that. Really, so this comes back to strategic planning. You want to have voices that will represent, much like you do as elected officials, areas of interest.
So where exactly then do the residents come into this?
So they would be represented through those constituency groups.
and well, also there's a survey.
Yeah.
And the survey, yeah, so for the broad, so the reason we're doing the survey is to get that broad perspective, but.
Every resident could fill out the entire survey.
And I was actually very glad when I was talking about this. You all have a list of everyone who gets their utility bill for you. So you have an email address. One of the hardest things sometimes when you're trying to do that broad survey across all of the citizens is getting a way to reach them.
So what is your plan for folks who don't have or aren't computer savvy?
Well, and I was going to clarify, we don't necessarily have an email address for every utility customer. Some don't have email, some have been in the system for many, many, many years. However, we do mail a bill,
Right.
and so we can include a paper.
We can include a paper survey if that's an area of concern. I will say, so we've done, and this wasn't with strategic planning, but we had a client who, a large group of their potential survey respondents were not going to respond electronically, so we went to paper survey collection.
Could you QR code tiny URL on the, on our
Sure.
site?
Well, we would want to be specific, so I think what you're saying is like the public access panel or the website. What we would want to do is make sure that we're really targeting folks that either are working or living in Berlin. So the goal will be to utilize either the addresses that are on file through utility bills or some mechanism of trying to target that group, not anybody that sees the QR code or the link.
Yeah, we don't want you to go to
Paper.
Right.
people in Salisbury, for instance.
And I don't, just two more things. I'd like to see if it's possible, phase 2, number 8. It says work with the mayor to develop a subgroup. Can we do that, mayor and council? I think that in order to get a real, I think just to have all of us involved in this particular type of plan is important.
Well, and just for clarification, when it says work with the mayor to develop a subgroup, each one of these phases requires us to come back before the group and say, this is what the plan is for the next phase. So I'm not going to develop that by myself. We're going to do that together as we do with all boards, commissions.
No offense to anyone, I just don't want one person to be picking certain people.
I don't want to be the one person that picks all the people.
And then my final thing is, I'm sure that this is great, you'll do a fine job, but should this be something that was RFP out?
So
I
this,
would not like to have it, please don't take offense to this.
Right, oh yeah.
I don't want something like our town strategic plan to be a graduate study project.
maybe you can
So let
speak
me-
to that for a
Maybe
moment.
clarify that for me.
It will not be a graduate student. They are involved in the process. We will have, so they are part of our labor force. They won't be driving the project. again, one of the key components for us is we do give them that experience, but they're working along with us.
And maybe talk a little bit about what you have on page 2 under timeline, projected fees and payment schedule, where you accent that a study would ordinarily cost $40,000, which is way outside of our scope.
And I actually had a question about that because I believe I may have made an error in this. That, the 9,300 that you referenced there is per phase, correct?
Per phase.
Okay, the motion currently reads for a total of,
It should be for one phase.
so the motion is only for one phase?
Correct.
Okay, that, I needed that clarity because I thought that I made a mistake in how much was on the motion.
It's okay, it should just be for one phase, but we'll
Okay.
double check that before. we
And
move
I think
forward.
I will amend the motion accordingly to be more specific.
Yeah. But our ability to provide the project at that rate is based on part of our labor force being our graduate student labor force.
And it may provide more clarity. So we have 3 full-time staff members plus faculty that are working on these projects with us. The graduate assistants are acting as the individuals who may take the surveys and compile data, and then we take it and analyze and put it into the strategic plan. So we are in no form turning in anything that only a graduate assistant has looked at. It's been reviewed by all of our team, our faculty, before we submit anything to client.
I will say on a side note, if there's a really good graphic in there, it probably was done by one of our graduate students.
Fair enough, thank you.
One of the things I was interested in, page 2, the deliverables, but I really like the aftercare aspect of it because, you know, oftentimes governments have these strategic plans done and they sit on a shelf, and are, thought of highly and not used as action items. So there's a couple governments locally that have had these processes done, and they link this. They have like a one sheet actually, and it's before them. Before every meeting, where they're reminded exactly, and on the agenda, it's coded to what exactly, this item is, create a sustainable economic community, that type of thing. Is that part of something that's included in your deliverable, that one sheet where
So it may be one sheet, it may be one sheet that has your main points, and then that would go into, so certainly your whole plan is not going to fit on one sheet, but that would give you 5 to 6 strategic initiatives. Under that will be action steps on those. So you'd have one that would say, okay, this fits in with, for your example, a vibrant community, and then you would track that to the action items on that. Maybe
Sure.
separate items, but you'd see those main points.
So that 6-month aftercare, what would that look like?
So that would be us. It's fairly open, but certainly at the 5 to 6 months, we would come and do a checkup with you. Are things on track? Did you get into this plan and realize that you need some edits? So by that, before the 6-month period, we would be here to understand, are there edits you need to make? Once this was in place, you realize you left. There was an action step that just came up. It could be an environmental reason that it comes up. It could be an oversight, any of those items, and we'd come back and make those edits for you. The goal is, though, in this plan, is it will be something that you don't need our maintenance on, but that in that process, when we talk to you, we'll give you the understanding to be able to say, okay, we're going to measure with these items. So the measurement's a really key piece to that. You don't have to measure every month, but you'll have, in the plan, we'll give you the period with which you're going to measure and steps. And those measures may change over time. The other thing I will say in strategic planning, hopefully going through this process, those minor edits, you do them internally, but at least every 2 years, you look and you say, okay, are these still relevant? COVID's a great example of the few reasons it's worthwhile to have lived through COVID, because you realize if someone wrote a strategic plan in 2018, If they didn't make an adjustment in 2020, right, you know, so, I mean, that's just, that's a dramatic example. You know, knock on wood, there's no reason to think of that, but other things do happen in the environment.
Thank you.
So in the fine print on page 3, you talk about an on-campus engagement that we're required to do. Can you speak more about that?
Yeah, so this is, we don't always execute on that, but this is one that I could see a great example of either one of you or maybe one of your department heads that would be willing to come in and talk to. And we'd have to talk to maybe a management class. If it's something in sort of the financial tracking, it may be an accounting class. And so we talk with the professors at the university and say, you know, do you have a component in your course that this would be something that you'd be interested in? We'd come back. You'd have to, of course, be available. You know, that's why we include those. Probably execution-wise, about 25% of our projects, the schedule and the need within a course line up. But again, it's a chance for us to, as I said, one of the key components of Beacon, the reason we're at a university is we do provide that learning aspect. And a lot of the students, it's great to say, oh gosh, here's something I'm learning in class, and you know, how do people use a strategic plan? Well, here's a municipality. A lot of students go to work in municipalities or some form of government, so they get a chance to see how it actually may be implemented sometime.
Any additional questions for John or Jess? I didn't even ask if you wanted Jess or Jessica. I called you both. All right. Well, if you don't mind hanging out for agenda item 3A, and you can stay right there if you don't mind, in case there are any questions regarding, and then after that, you're free to go.
Sure.
So, agenda item 3A, Mary, do you want to offer a clarification to
I
that?
do. I believe that to be correct, it should read motion of to approve phase 1 of the proposed strategic plan, et cetera, in the amount of $9,300.
So we will let Mary's stand as the amendment, or the amended text.
So I'll go ahead and make
Hold on, before we do that, one
Is that-
thing that I want to ask, I don't see any problem with it, but I want to make sure that our legal vets this out too. How do you handle where does the money come in? To your entrepreneurial account for Beacon?
So it goes into, I mean, the transaction would go to Salisbury University, and then within their accounting system, it goes to Beacon's account.
Okay, and the reason I say that, my employer is Salisbury University. I get no funds from this, and I want to make that very clear. And you're in a completely different school than the one I teach in, so I just wanted to make that clear. We good?
Good.
All right.
Any reason we don't address all 3 phases?
We segmented this out to meet our needs for streamlining the project with Beacon.
If you'll read on page 19, scope of work, the title of that section literally reads, phase 1 and anticipate phases 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 would come into play if it becomes appropriate.
Right.
And at that point, it would be $9,300 per phase. So they would come before you for additional approvals.
Each time, that's that check-in period.
And if we're doing something wrong, we can redirect. Phase 2 may change the items in there. You know, that's part of the process. We think those are the exact steps we're going to do. There may be small changes that we make before we actually, in phase 2, there may be things to say, we'd like additional listening sessions of some sort. And we'd adjust our actions to fit that. I just give that as an example.
I would also add that if you did do all 3 phases, it would be $27,000, and you have allocated $28,000 in ARPA. So assuming there are no additional items added, you're still within the amount that you had designated.
The items in the phases may change, but we will be going through phase 2 and 3
That's the anticipation.
to have it a complete work.
That would be the goal.
Okay.
And there's a motion by Councilmember Orts
Second.
and a second by Vice President Burrell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-31 as amended by the town administrator passes unanimously. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
We appreciate
I'm
it.
really looking forward to working with y'all.
So are we. We are very much looking forward to it. So, and I know it's been a goal of our finance director and a goal of mine as well to have our GFOA designation for the distinguished budget, so.
And if I may, I've been working with John now, I don't know how many years, over the last 15 years, and he was instrumental on many of the opportunities for the SERI grant, for the COVID money that the town received. It was, I think it was $176,000 several years ago, and then even prior to that. So he always answers emails, phone calls, is super informative and super easy to work with. So I applaud your decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jeff. See you. All right, up next is agenda item 3B, which is motion 2023-32 Taylor House Museum events, and I believe, yep, there you are. Our museum president and Dr. Melissa Reed is here with us this evening. We always admit the doctor. We got to get on that. Can we add doctor, please? Thank you. You work hard for it.
Hi, everybody. This is going to be quick. I'm here to ask for a special event permit for an event which is really a continuation of a Sunday evening at the museum. The event we had in July, the band, who was a local band, they had about 6 songs they played. The lawn was packed. It was a great event, and then a storm came through. So the band has asked we asked if they would like to come back for a rescheduled event, and we set a date, and that's what this event, the paperwork you have in front of you for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions for Dr. Reed?
I happen to be there and look forward to it being continued, so
that
I would
motion?
make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-32 passes unanimously. Thank you.
Great. And before you...
Real quick, I'm sorry, Doctor. Just my usual thing, I do, full disclosure, I do serve on the board of the Taylor House Museum, and I get no monetary things out of any of this, but just for
Thank you.
And actually, this is a segue into something else. It's not on the agenda, but I have a favor to ask, and it's okay if it will not work tonight. But I was also supposed to...
subsection 1. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I was supposed to submit paperwork for a second particular event that we are having on the lawn in October, and I thought I attached it when I attached the paperwork for this particular event we just talked about. So if possible, can I explain what the event is, and can we do a vote on it, or I can, and I brought the paperwork with me, or I can come back to you guys again.
Can you give Mary the paperwork while you explain?
Yes, I can.
And then as long as she says yes, and everything checks. I'm saying that everything checks the boxes, then I don't see a problem with that.
And what I'll do is, while she's looking, I'll explain what it is. It would just be another fundraising event that would sort of take the place for what we used to call Harvest Homecoming. And basically, it's a cornhole tournament that we would be having on the lawn. It would be a Saturday, October 21st, only from 1 to 4. And that's just a different kind of event than we've had before. But
Pie eating contest? Or
we could do that for Peach. We only have that for Peach. We can only do that once a year.
And the date of that again?
October 21st.
Hold on one second. Is everything looking like it's...
The only question I do have, you indicate for will there be live music or DJ, you indicate no, but then you say Americana.
Oh, sorry, that was left over from the September 24th
Okay, so there is
paperwork,
no
so
live
there's no
music.
live music.
Okay.
We might be like have a little speaker hooked up to someone's phone, but there's no live music or DJ.
And
per se.
then the only other thing was, sorry if I can make my fingers
Any
work.
closures of the road or anything?
No, nothing like that, no.
Is one of the copies of the one-day permit completed? Because this is blank.
Oh.
We'll get that
I will do
figured out.
I'll do that,
Okay.
that's my fault. Thank you.
But you are requesting a one-day special alcohol.
Same thing, yes, exactly. Sorry about that, thank you. First day of school today, so I'm a little...
And let's do that one. Do you want to do it under the same motion, 2023-32, or do you want to give that 36? Make it 36 to clean it up?
Is that
It looks like it would be the
What do we
next
have
one.
on the agenda? Would 36 be the next?
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. We
So
can
let's
write
call
up a
this-
motion tomorrow.
We'll call this motion 2023-36.
Jimmy, did you have something?
I saw, just to confirm, no trash, no takeables, no street garbage.
Just porta potties.
Just porta potties. All right, I'll give it to you.
Now, we have a motion to approve the special event by Councilmember Nur and a second by Councilmember Nichols. This is motion 2023-36. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that that passes unanimously.
Thank you so much, sorry for that, thanks, appreciate it.
So then up next is agenda item 3C, motion 2023-33, and that is the appointments of board, commission, and committee members, and Mayor Zach Tyndall is going to run appointments meeting. So the letter that's in the packet is a little more extensive, but the summary of this is the Parks Commission, Patricia Dufendock, reappointment, 2-year term. Kristen Gearhart would be a new appointment, a 3-year term. Sarah Hooper would be a reappointment for a 1-year term. Laura Sturm would be a reappointment for a 2-year term. Mike Wiley would be a reappointment for a 1-year term. The Historic District Commission would be Carol Rose, reappointment for a 3-year term. Laura Stearns, reappointment for a 3-year term. Arts and Entertainment Advisory Board would be Natalie Blanton, new appointment, 2-year term. Nikki Lowry, a new appointment, 2-year term. Angie Mace, new appointment, 2-year term. Eric Mace, new appointment, 2-year term. Planning Commission would be Eric, I always mess his name up. Pfeiffer, thank you. New appointment, 5-year term. Steve Shriver, new appointment, alternate, 5-year term. Board of Zoning Appeals would be Jenny Allen, new appointment, 3-year term. Housing Board of Review would be Tony Weed, new appointment, 3-year term.
With these appointments, does that mean that each of these commissions and committees and boards are now at capacity?
We would still have some vacancies. Once these are approved, we will send out a revised and updated boards and commissions list for everybody. But we would still have some vacancies existing.
Mayor, what is the process for making these appointments? You interview these applicants, who else?
And hold on one second, Mary, don't let me forget about the Board of Elections. So the process is, by the charter, the mayor makes the appointment recommendations to the council for approval. What we did when I started as mayor in 2020 is that we opened it up to an application pool. So the new process for that is folks that are interested in a board, commission, or committee fill out an application online. That includes a basic questionnaire as well as a resume. We accept anything from a napkin that's handwritten to a fully published and designered resume. We've had all. With that, we work with, thank you to Sarah, she's a huge help in coordinating all of us, to schedule interviews with each one of these members as well as the folks that applied. In the interview process is the mayor, the executive assistant to the mayor, the town administrator, the respective committee staff liaison, and the respective committee or commission or board's chair for the interview panel. And then after that, we discuss the application pool and then I make the recommendation.
The reason I ask is, and this is just a general question, so someone like Tony appointed to the housing board.
Right.
Ever since I've known Tony, he's been talking about the parks, I want to get the parks, I want to get the parks. So how does it come about that all of a sudden he's on the housing board?
Because what's very interesting about the application process and the interview process is, one, I get to learn a lot of really cool things, I think we all do, about folks that we've known in a certain capacity for a long time, right? And then two, what happens is you think, right, that Tony's interest is parks. You're wrong. Tony's interest is planning commission. And that yielded itself through the interview process. I would have always pegged him as parks too. But he wanted the planning commission. And we had 2 members with very, very strong resumes that are here and nominated. And in an effort to build a resume to be able to get to the planning commission, the housing board review, although they don't meet frequently, does require an extensive knowledge of the town code and ordinances and charter. And we discussed that that's probably the best fit to lead into the planning commission.
So what happens to the folks that might not be nominated? how are they notified, and are they offered something else?
Well, sometimes we'll plug folks into different locations given the outcomes of the interview, right? So take, as Jay noted, Mr. Weed, right? We determined that he had other interests in serving the town. So through that process, and Miss Allen, Jenny Allen's another example, right? Jenny did not apply for Board of Zoning Appeals, but through the interview process and the questioning and the conversations, we felt that that was a really good fit, and explained that to Miss Allen, and she felt that it was worth giving it a try as well in that capacity. So it's a give and take, right? Now, the folks that apply, if there's a vacancy that occurs tomorrow, we might give them a call. But at this time, this is the slate of folks that we're putting forward.
I had a citizen express a concern of diversity of both male and racial. She said that I think if the planning commission was made up of only white men.
Okay, so when it comes to diversity and inclusion, we do not, what's the boiler that we do live up to for all?
Equal opportunity?
There you are. We're an equal opportunity employer. We don't employ these folks in a position of pay, but we also don't discriminate against anybody on any of those protected classes.
I think that was the observation.
Well, I'm telling you what we do in practical application.
We also
You're welcome,
asked
sir.
for recommendations from constituents from all the
Correct.
representatives.
Thank you, Sarah. So do you want to elaborate on that? You don't get airtime often, so go ahead.
The other thing that you didn't mention that we also do is check the candidate status on their bills and taxes and everything in town as well, to make sure that they're on the up and up. And then also in that particular case, I feel like what we really did was respond to everybody who applied. So we took all the applicants. There were a number of people who applied who don't live within the town limits of Berlin, so we weren't able to interview them. But anybody who was interested in any of the positions had an interview.
And we also push that out on social media. We also ask all of you to ask your constituents to try and make sure that each district is as represented as we can. But, I mean, we do our best, and we go above. What's that?
We're limited to who applies.
Correct, we are. So,
Just a question on the term limits. Is that personal choice of the, like there's Sarah and Mike for Parks Commission, but they're expressing that interest in just 1 year? Or?
so there's the interest in succession planning. So the folks like Mike and Sarah have expressed that they still want to continue, but that they want to foster new members as well along the way. So that's why you see the staggering of the terms.
Is there a cap on the terms?
No, there are 3 different options as far as terms. The cap, I think, is 3 years. Right?
Different boards and commissions have different requirements as well.
Yeah, each one of these is, if you see like a 2-year, if you see a 5, those are spelled out in the code.
Well, like planning commission.
5,
And you can be reappointed though, right?
after 5.
And do another 5 and then.
There's no cap, yep. But the 5-year term limit
Term
is
limits, yeah.
defined. We don't have the ability to adjust that.
So with fostering succession, tell me what that means.
So in the words of Mike and Sarah, they want to continue, but they don't want to continue for a 3-year term. And they want to help share their knowledge with some of the other members, and including the new member that's on. Well, there's a new member up for appointment. So that would include that, and then eventually, probably in a year's time, we will have 2 vacancies on the Parks Commission.
With possible recommendations from those leaving?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess where I'm going with this, and I'm asking this, in my brain, I'm hearing what Mr. Burrell says, I'm hearing what you're saying, and then I hear what people who are messaging me are saying. Okay, so when a person is ready to retire, point in case Phyllis Cornell, and Mom Phyllis is ready to retire, we knew that about a year or so ago. Was there a fostering of a possible replacement at that point? Or are we just at the application phase? And I ask that because it's asked of me, and I want to know how to respond to those parts.
So I think the best way I can answer that is that like the equal opportunity employment side of things, we don't go to folks, I don't go to folks asking, hey, when are you ready to retire? I don't go to.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
But
that you do.
I'm answering your question. So I don't do that to any of our staff. I don't do that to any of our boards, commissions, or committees. If they volunteer that information, we'll work with them for succession planning all the way around, from employee to volunteer. Now, if what happens is that at the end of everybody's term, whether you're a reappointment and you're interested in serving again, or whether you're a new appointment, you go through the same application process. What that does is it, rather than just somebody before, it was a letter that was sent. And it was check yes if you want to continue, check no if you don't. And it never came up here. So I changed that when I became mayor. I wanted folks to reapply. I wanted them, if they wanted to serve, let us know why you want to serve. And then if not, then that opens an opportunity for somebody else to come in. Now, for everybody that's interested, all of our boards, commissions, and committee vacancies are advertised and on the town website and open for anybody in the town of Berlin, or, as Sarah noted, outside of the town of Berlin to apply. I will say, if you live outside of the town of Berlin, you are not getting recommended. But if you're a town resident, I'd love to interview you. So,
I would just like to point out that the motion has the wrong year.
oh,
So that'll have to be
I
changed.
corrected that on the signed version.
thank you. So we can take these as a slate, separate them out. It is up to all of you, but these are the nominations.
I mean, I'll just go ahead and make the motion to approve 2023-33 for all nominations.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Ors.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Green. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-33 passes unanimously. Thank you.
Now, before we move on though, I did take a quick glance at the code, and I'm not a legal fellow, but I think that some of these processes, like nomination and approval by the body, has just become kind of tradition. So like, some of the committee that we've created are not specifically in the code. So I think that might be something in the future, especially when some of these terms end in the next year. Parks is different because that's in the code. But we can look at that and see if there's perhaps another mold of what you've set out that we can do.
It's defined in the charter.
There aren't any commissions that you just approved that aren't in the code.
Oh, it's entertainment.
And-
It's an entertainment.
But it also says, are you saying the process?
Well, no, I'm just saying, well, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that like something like that we've created this, so that
Yeah.
could be a thing.
I don't understand what you're saying. As far as who goes on them for nomination?
No, like some of these in the code are already laid out and they have the rules that we have to follow. The ones that we create, like these are all 2-year terms, maybe we could reevaluate them, or you and admin can do that, and then we can intentionally stagger them.
Oh, you're
So,
saying,
like-
you're saying the length of term?
Yes, and also maybe the mold of it, and we can do things to get more, maybe more positions or more diversity.
I
Yes.
think the diversity thing is
So I don't know.
applications and encouraging your
Sure.
constituents to apply.
Well, absolutely.
Now, the staggering of the terms, some of those we don't have much leeway, as you
I'm just
mentioned.
throwing it out there. As a-
Okay.
I think most of the code does speak to staggering terms, but in
It's just
some
the way it's
cases,
been.
they've sort of gotten off track, and so part of this is also trying to get that back on
And
track.
I'm we've tightened up the application process, let's tighten up the actual structure.
Right.
On some of them, is what I guess what I'm saying. Yes.
And just before
I was just
we
getting ready to say it,
close this
just-
topic,
Okay.
Go ahead,
we
Mary.
need Board of Elections.
We do. We need
Please
Board of-
encourage anyone who might be interested.
What do we have?
Right now,
We have Gina Belong.
Gina Belong, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I've gone completely blank on it.
Betty Tustin.
Betty.
Yes, Betty Tustin.
There's one more. We have 3. Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Linda Bowen,
Linda Bowen and
Tony Bowen.
I thought it was just the 4.
But they've
No,
expressed.
no, last
We
time
didn't
we were
get-
short
yeah, we were
one.
short one.
We actually went into the last election short one person, which was not a problem as long as, they don't vote on a lot. There are a few things that they're approving, but we definitely are short one. And I can't speak to term limits right off the top of my head, but I'm just, keep it in mind, by May, of
Capacity.
next year. They.
There's a stipend for that,
Is that
right? There's a stipend for that?
Yes, there
Yeah.
is a stipend for,
Maybe we
for
should add that
working
to the
election day.
application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on, can you make a note that we add the stipend
It's fine.
information to the town website under the vacancies? That's a good point.
That
It's
is
a
the
long
only,
day, but.
yeah. That is the only board that actually receives a stipend because they are literally working that one day.
It's 12 hours, these three.
Yeah.
And
No,
long
we
day.
do their own
There was
hours.
also an issue with them.
That's why
Provided
the stipend was increased.
So I bought them pizza instead of Uber.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they should have food provided.
Well, we actually increased the stipend a few years ago to allow them to buy their own food. It was raised. It's a little bit higher than what most towns pay. But if that's the direction you want to go in, then that was the direction that was desired at that time, was to raise the stipend so that they could buy dinner. If you want the town to buy dinner, that's,
I don't think the town should enter in buying dinner because we don't need anybody saying that we are feeding people and to play a part in voting. We got enough drama.
So you gotta pick a vendor,
No, thank you.
I think.
that's something to be revisited if you choose to go in that direction.
I just don't, I just think that we have enough tedious.
They might want to pack,
bad
take the
bad
cash.
publicity, huh?
They might want to pack and take the cash.
Right.
Steve's financial planning. Okay, Mary, can I move on?
Yes.
Okay. Up next is agenda item 3B, which is motion 2023-34. This is a motion coming after the motion is there, but I do want to go over the staff memo quickly. So the town of Berlin has received an increased number of Freedom of Information Act FOIA requests over the past couple of months. Some of these requests are for personal cell phone records of our employees. In an effort to protect our employees' privacy and increase the availability of public information, the mayor, town administrator, and department heads have evaluated transitioning to town-owned devices. During the Summer Maryland Municipal League Conference, I met with AT&T FirstNet staff to determine their capabilities and whether or not they would be a fit for the town of Berlin. AT&T FirstNet is a communication network built for first responders and critical infrastructure personnel. It provides backups to stay connected during planned events and in emergency situations. Over the past several months, the town of Berlin, in conjunction with our department heads, evaluated several FirstNet devices designed to bolster our communication and emergency preparedness. Additionally, the devices that town staff have agreed upon include push-to-talk capabilities that can integrate with Worcester County Emergency Services countywide radio system. The integration of push-to-talk capabilities will increase the town of Berlin's emergency preparedness, increase communication within our operational departments, and allow our staff to communicate with mutual aid agencies during disasters. So the financial impact, there is a caveat here, plus or minus $500. I think it'll be on the minus side. The town of Berlin currently and historically has budgeted $50 per employee for each, to reimburse for cell phone expenditures on private devices for town business. Using federal and state contracts like the one that's included here tonight, open to municipalities with AT&T FirstNet, the town of Berlin is able to acquire devices. In this case, we would like to acquire Sonim XP10 devices at 99 cents per device. Councilmember Orris asked the question if that was a correct number.
It is.
It is correct, and the government pricing on that does provide that below market rate.
Well, I was worried your margin of error was actually $500 per phone.
Oh, no, so that would make you sleep better. So within the adopted FY24 budget, the town of Berlin is reimbursing 72 employees for town business on private devices. With the assistance of each department head, we anticipate acquiring 62 town-owned devices with AT&T FirstNet. Of the 62 devices, 54 will be equipped with push-to-talk capabilities. Using the features stated above, the town of Berlin anticipates a net savings of $5,600 per year across all of our funds. That's water, sewer, stormwater, electric, and general fund. However, to increase the town of Berlin's emergency preparedness and interoperability with Worcester County Emergency Services, there will be an additional one-time cost to acquire a locality interoperability box that will join the push-to-talk feature with the Sonim XP10 and the countywide radio system. The cost of the locality interoperability box, this should read, is, where's my note? It was $12,000. Anybody have that? I sent
The
it out.
highlighted copy that I have
Thank you.
reads, the cost of the box is $3,500.
It should be down in option 3. The last,
Oh, yes, under option 3, second bullet point, it's $12,050.
$12,050. So that should read $12,050. That would include the box, the cables, the power source, and the licensing fee. The additional cost of the vocality interoperability box would eliminate the need for the town of Berlin to acquire radios. I know that's been a discussion of ours previously. For each employee, which would have a projected cost of $230.66 each in February of 2023, producing an additional savings of roughly $400,000. The recommendation would also include the acquisition of 10 SD7 devices that would integrate with the Town of Berlin Sonim XP10 devices for use during special events and townwide emergencies. The devices would come in a charging case and be stored at Town Hall as needed, for deployment as needed. So the options are before you. The recommendation would be to go with option 3. The only caveat to that is that I would like I wanted all of you to be aware of the vocality interoperability box, but that is not something that I want us to move forward with right this moment. That'll come up back before everybody once we have a better idea of the implementation of the XP10s. But we're going to need that device in order to bridge the push-to-talk on the devices to the county-wide system. And that will come at a cost of $12,050.
Which employees would require any integrating with Worcester County emergency services?
So the 54 devices would have the capability to integrate with Worcester County Emergency Services.
Well, which employees?
So those would be all of our employees under Public Works, all of our employees under Electric, all of our employees under Water, all Police Department.
All sworn.
Sworn officers and the dispatch who
No.
already have access to the countywide system. There would be one device
There
in
will
the
be
dispatch.
a device at dispatch, not each
No.
individual dispatcher having a device.
Okay, who would not get them? Because there's
So-
only 8 that don't get them.
So there's some of the administrative staff, the council would not get that because it is a FirstNet operational thing. The town administrator would have the continuity of government, the mayor would have the continuity of government. I think that's it, really, on the list.
Yes.
In essence,
that's,
I'd have to get you the form right away. 54 devices would have the push-to-talk capability.
So is this like the old Nextel?
But better, yes.
What we could, I mean,
Yes.
feature. Okay. So, so right now we do 600 at 72. So cell phones right now are 43,200, correct? Around there.
50 times the 72 times 12.
Right. Well, 600 times 72. So,
Yeah, 600 a year,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
so 43. So 62 phones at a penny. I mean a dime. I mean a dollar.
Heavy.
62.
We got them cheaper.
Yeah, $62. Do we still need the one-time cost of
So
$9.90 for that?
I think to answer your question, everything that is in option 3 minus the vocality kit
Is still accurate.
is within the approved budget and will actually produce a net savings of almost $6,000. Does that help you?
Yeah, sure. And then 100 per month for the service is just, it's not per device.
So that is for all 10 of the devices. Now, the one difference is that under option 3, the amended option 3, there would be an acquisition of 3 hotspots that allows for up to 32 Wi-Fi devices. This is 3 hotspots in addition to the ones that we have now. We currently have hotspots for our sworn law enforcement officers for their unit within their police car. We also have a couple hotspots for our meters and stuff like that that we need. So those would still continue, but we want to acquire 3 additional. They're $149 a piece, roughly $150 a piece. And then the data would be the same data rate for the others. It's indicated also in the amended memo, but all of that would still be within the approved budget.
So these phones are for the council as well?
Yes, every employee would get, every designated employee, the 62, would get a town device.
And will I still be able to get my email and messaging?
That is up to you. The town stance will be that we recommend getting your town email on a town device.
It keeps all of your
Has cards.
tech.
But sometimes there's an attachment, so I'm not opening it on my computer. I don't want to.
And we realize that we don't provide computers for everyone, so that is okay, but you're still using the town's internet server, which is available for Public Information Act requests.
And basically, as long as you're using the berlinmd.gov email address, that in particular, it doesn't matter if you're getting that on a mobile device or not, because it's within the town.
But I can get on any.
Yes, yes.
I'm concerned with calls. Would I be expected to walk around with 2 cell phones?
You could forward
You can
one number
forward.
to your existing.
Okay,
And AT&T would have folks, AT&T will have folks on site to assist with the setup, rollout, all of that same day with every one of our employees.
What's the timeline on it?
Hopefully by the second week of September.
Okay. If there are any other questions, I'll go ahead and
What did you say the timeline was?
Second week of September.
Oh,
make the motion of, I guess it's an amended it's an amended contract now, or option, I should say.
Yes, because it should not include the vocality box. We're gonna do that together. I want to pilot that. They have one that we can bring on site to pilot. Before we spend $12,000, I want to make sure it works the way we want it to work. So that'll come back up before everyone.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve 2023-34, the FirstNet amended contract presented.
The motion, because we're really using the state's contract. We're entering in as a party to the state's contract.
So that motion amended.
So the motion would include the cellular devices as specified in the memo, the mobile hotspot devices as recommended in the amended memo, which is 3 additional devices, and the, I don't know why it says radios. It should not say locality interoperability box, and it should not say radios. Well, those are the SD7s, that's what it is.
Right.
So yes, it should say the radios.
which is all under option 3.
Correct.
Except for the locality.
All right, so that motion by Councilmember Orris,
Second.
second by Councilmember Nur. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-34 as amended passes unanimously. Thank you.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but I think it's going to be a good benefit for the town and will assist us on the emergency preparedness side and the ability for everybody to be on the same page.
And
So-
just to give a little more information, because I do feel it's important, but this system came about following 9/11. The federal government indicated that they felt the need for a nationwide emergency cellular system, and they put it out to bid, and FirstNet, AT&T is who won that bid. They have very specific parameters. We can't just hand any employee a phone and say, you're now an emergency person. We had to identify the positions that employees held to determine whether they are a primary or an extended primary. Primary is basically police, fire, ambulance. Extended primary gets into our utilities and our continuity of government staff. So this is a very regimented is not the word that I want to use, but you understand what I'm saying. It's very clearly defined.
Like it's regulated. almost.
Yes, regulated, yes.
We had originally put the council as continuity of government, and
Right, and they
they
said no.
One last question. We've experienced issues with Verizon connectivity throughough town. Has anybody experienced any issues with the AT&T network?
So back when this all started, I was actually sitting, I'm still a licensed paramedic, but I was sitting in my paramedic refresher, and one of the folks that was teaching a segment of the class said, I can get a CAL in 2 hours, or a cellular on wheels in 2 hours. I said, I've known the guy that was teaching for a long time. And I said, that is not true. I can't get one from Verizon for anything. And he said, who are you using? I said, Verizon. And he said, let's talk after class. And we talked, and he said, you need to be on FirstNet. And I said, what is FirstNet? So I've been piloting FirstNet since March because I am a paramedic, so I fall in the primary category. So my device is FirstNet. And I've been piloting it everywhere I go. I'm on the phone all the time. And my wife has Verizon. She'll have SOS all the time. I got full strength. The only place I don't have full strength is Aztec Island. But the only caveat to that is that they're building, a tower is being built and will go up in the early part of 2024, which should fix that. But everywhere else in the county, I've had very, very good service.
Will you be addressing the Verizon engineers?
They-
Report?
Uh,
Later today?
I don't have anything additional to report, but I
But
Well,
I was
enjoy their time.
well, I mean, I had to go to them, and they did not like my message, but
To the issue of those issues with cellular service in times of high congestion, part of kind of the main point of FirstNet is that if those times of high congestion start rolling, the people who are on this system get priority service. So we won't experience that, no cellular service. So during the Christmas parade, our key personnel will still be able to communicate during an emergency, et cetera.
and those SD7s that are the radios or they're a device that if you Google SD7 and FirstNet, it'll come up. But it really is just a radio. And the idea of that is that when we segment into teams, if they don't have a staff person with them, we'll assign a radio. So then we then have that intercommunication for events. The other side of that is that if you're ever out in DC or something like that, walking, if you see like a cellular system up on the National Park Service, it's FirstNet. That's like who they're using, so federal contract. So, all right. Up next is Chief of Police. So we have motion 2023-35 speed camera contract. Our town attorney, wow, David Gaskell, and Chief of Police Arnold Downing are running point.
I'm gonna let Chief run point one.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you very much.
Running point.
The contract's actually with Red Speed, which is an actual vendor. The contract's 34 pages, so I'll try to hit the high points for you. On page 5, it actually lists the actual term. The term is 5 years. And within that time, Red Speed will build out the whole system. With that said, if we have to break that contract within that period of time, whatever cost that they put out to expend on the system itself, we'll have to go ahead and recoup those to Red Speed. Why Red Speed and not other vendors? We actually had an opportunity to talk to other vendors. The technology is totally different. Most speed cameras are actual photo cameras taking snapshots. Red Speed actually uses video. So we'll be able to go ahead and look back, look at that video, and actually do other things other than just capture speeders and violations. We'll be able to also look at vehicles going by at a certain location and helping us to identify, some of those type of things. So that's one of those things that interests us in the actual program. This is actually a different payment structure than most of the others. A lot of other ones are flat fee. In saying that, if you don't have enough tickets, you might be in a negative. In this concept, they actually have a payment of $14 to the vendor and $26 on each citation. The citations are set by the state itself, so we can't change those fees whatsoever. Those are the set fees if we give a citation to a person and they pay. If they don't pay, Red Speed will take care of the flagging itself, and that'll be an additional $3 fee. So the process works that citations are actually coming in or violations. We have to have an authorized person within the department, police officer sworn, has to vet those citations, and we send those ones we want to go ahead and say are violators, because again, we could have other police officers officially doing their duties. We could actually have paramedics, fire company members, all of those. So, and it might be some errors that are in there. That means the tag itself wasn't identifiable. All those will be flagged if we have to push those out and they're not paid, and the recoup comes back with that minus $3 with that. So with each citation, the max that they will be getting is $17 out of the $40. If we look at the actual little side sheet, it'll actually show you the percentages that Red Speed has had compared to the other municipalities. And I think that's important for us. All the permits that actually assist with all of that. The only major things we would have to worry about is state highways, which are William Street, Broad Street, and Main Street, and we would have to go ahead and get permission from State Highway. to go ahead and put actual units on those locations. Red Speed does that for us, and they do it routinely. And again, the state usually doesn't have any issue if it is fronting or very close to a school. That means touching a street that's connected with a school. Other locations, we have to go ahead and work a little bit for that, but again, they take care of that permitting themselves. Page 23 actually talks about the equipment itself, and if it's not operational, they'll fix anything other than our negligence, and then we have to go ahead and pay for the replacement or repair costs. Looking through that the whole contract, that's really the only expense that would come out of our own pocket. I think if we look at 24 and 25 and 26, it speaks to what the municipality has to do. And throughout the whole document, these 2 pages, 3 pages, looks at what the municipality has to do. We have to have an authorized officer who's trained to go ahead and review all the violations itself. We have to go ahead and execute all citations that are sent out. And we have to go ahead and make sure that we have staff that is actually trained. Municipality and Red Speed mutually have to agree on sites. Once the site is established, that site has to be maintained for 1 year unless we mutually agree that another site should be chosen because this site is not appropriate location. But again, if it's underperforming, that's what they're going to end up doing.
So Chief, can I ask you a question right there?
Sure.
So they actually haven't done an analysis yet to realize if there's a want for this?
And they will not do anything until the contract,
Okay.
and then that's the first thing they'll do.
Do you feel like there's a chance that they won't want to do business with the town of Berlin? They won't find that there's an opportunity for them to find enough speeders? Yeah. I assume they're here. I'm just asking this silly question, but I just want to make sure. What's that?
You walk.
And the thing is, if that was the case, we wouldn't be out anything.
Right.
Number one, they know the number of schools within the town of Berlin, and we're unlike any school. Pittsville itself, if you look at the amount of money they make, they have one whole school, 3 cameras. And with their violations, they're averaging this year, $5,000 to $6,000 in revenue with the violations.
Annually or monthly?
Monthly.
Yeah, they're annuals.
You can put that right on 518 or 515 Flower Street.
Here's the thing. That has actually been reduced from around 11,000. So it tells you that the residents there have actually changed their behavior, and the numbers have come down, and we still have that type of revenue.
And truly, at the end of the day, that's the goal, not the revenue, but the reduction in speed.
Well, that has not happened, so put it on my property. I give you permission.
And the statement is, if we, after the first year, we don't get a 20% reduction, then really, we have some bad behavior. We have a lot of people who are not from this location.
Chief, what happens in the event that someone contests the charge or whatever, and they want to go to court over it?
We love it. Red Speed actually goes to court.
They go to court for you?
They
so
actually-
You don't have to send any officers or personnel?
Again, we're not doing anything other than that they're calibrating, saying the machine is this, and they defend the technology.
Right.
So that's a big plus on our side. We go to court every day.
Right.
I mean,
You may have some.
you don't even want to speak to that, but
You don't want
Red
to-
Speed is the first thing they say is we go to court. When we talk about customer service, if we have them come in and pay, they won't have to worry about that. But on the backside, they answer all the questions, and they have a website set up.
Does this include the kiosk you wanted or no?
Well, again, they'll go ahead and determine if they're going to have the kiosk, but they'll definitely have the webpage, or if we're going to actually have them coming in and being able to pay directly to customer service.
Okay.
Chief, my only question.
Only?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Page 24.
24?
Yes, sir. Which I guess is 72 in the packet. Just clarification, please. Collection of delinquent payments will be the sole responsibility and expense of the municipality.
What, 4 point what?
4.12.
12, very last.
Last one on the page, I'm sorry. What's that exactly?
They're gonna actually go ahead and flag out. They're not gonna send anything through a collection agency. So what happens is, once flagged, the flag doesn't go ahead and take tags. They have to go ahead and go through MVA, and they will not renew the tags.
So they would have to come to here to pay.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
In order to get the
One-
We don't have to pay anything, they need to go through us.
No, no, again, the $2.99 fee is to flag, and then we'll go ahead and determine anything else. We don't have a mechanism to go and grab somebody and say, you owe us X amount of dollars.
And even if it did reach a point where we sent it through our collection agency,
And
we
we'd
would
never-
still get we don't pay them, we just get less of a,
Right, and we would never
and but
go
that
through that
would-
process.
I was just making sure that we're gonna.
They don't need collection agents.
Yes.
No.
Again, taking tags and
Flag your license.
is enough if they can't register vehicles in the state.
Any additional questions for the chief or town attorney?
Well, yeah, I just noticed in the agreement that Brentwood is cited as the municipality.
Correct, and that's for the RFP. We've actually, they're discussed with different contracts. Instead of going through a long process, it's already been done. So again, usually with those, when we piggyback, they last for a year. They actually did their contract in January.
I do want to say before we move forward, thank you to the chief and to the town attorney for running point on this. I know it's been a big lift trying to sort through the legislation to make sure we can do something like this, and then selecting the appropriate vendor. You all have put a lot of work into this, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to add that I have read this contract several times, and I don't see any problems with it from a legal standpoint.
Thank you.
And again, for us, knowing that Pocomoke, Snow Hill, Pittsville, Delmar, all of our local partners, they're using this, and they actually there were references. So that makes us feel good.
So we'll take a motion by the council.
Make a motion to approve 2023-35.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Green and a coin toss on this end of the table. A second by Councilmember Nichols.
Put one of them things in my yard.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-35 passes unanimously. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
I riding on the sidewalk recently because my husband stood in the street to slow us down. And he said, here, and rode on the sidewalk. So put it on my street, please.
We will be consulting all of the council members with possible locations, and we will make sure that you stay in that whole process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is agenda item 3F, motion 2023-XX. Employee handbook, section 6 and 7, review and approval. Human Resources Director Kelsey Jensen and Town Administrator Mary Bowler are going to run point.
Sure.
I'm gonna try to keep it brief. I'm just gonna point out a couple major things, I guess you could call them major things we've changed. Some of the language came directly from some of our carriers, like Legit, Workers' Comp, Chesapeake. We also reached out to One Digital for some clarity on the cafeteria plan section, health insurance and life insurance section. So we're just trying to make things more clear. But 6.4, I want to just talk about the workers' comp. Right now, it's really not practical how we're handling our workers' comp claims. It's confusing. It's in the past been done kind of on a case-by-case basis. So we want it to be as black and white as we can make it. Every claim handled the same. So this is what we have right now, but it's still underway. We spoke with Ocean City, Worcester County, Legit, Workers' Comp, and we're just trying to find what will work best for us. And we have a few examples that we're going to kind of look at and see how they compare with ours, but right now this is kind of what we have, but it will likely change. We took out the section about the state employee credit union. I mean, anybody can, I guess at one point that was the only bank you could direct deposit to. Now you can do it to anyone, so we took that out. We are planning to put together some appendix touching on certain sections, for example, uniforms and personal protective equipment. Right now we do reimburse for boots, safety glasses that are prescription, stuff like that for our field employees that need those. So we're just trying to get a concise plan forward for that because again, it's kind of, each department's kind of doing something a little different. We want it to be straightforward. So we don't have those, we have them typed up, they're just not provided today, but we will be kind of
Before the final.
Yeah, before the final, we'll have those all together for you. Section 6.8, which is 88 of the packet, we just kind of got rid of things that said 6 days per year or 12 days per year, and we kind of did that throughout all the leave balances because we have employees that work 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, so those days aren't really applicable, we're just changing it to hours. Let's see, vacation buyback, we didn't actually change anything with the policy, we're just clarifying it. I guess I say we didn't change anything. We are extending that, it used to say that employees had to have their buybacks to us by April 15th or something. I don't need them that early, May 15th is fine. You know, we don't cut the checks till usually late May, early June. But so just change little stuff like that. Let's see. Sick and Safe Leave Act, that's set forth by the state. Basically right now, every employee that is part-time and works 30 hours, they get 1 hour for every 30 hours worked of sick leave. And there's also the option to just give employees off the bat at the beginning of the fiscal year, 40 hours, it doesn't carry over. It's much easier, and I would like to change this to go that route for part-time employees, because right now I have to manually calculate if an employee worked 30 hours, I have to manually calculate, you know, for that example, it would be 1 hour of sick leave, but I'd be manually adding it into their leave bank, and it's time consuming. So I do that for all of our part-time employees, part-time dispatchers, seasonal workers. So I would like to move forward with the states. They give you the option. I'd like to switch to the 40 hours annual for part-time employees with no rollover.
I'll concur with that. I use the 40 hours,
Yeah.
it's much easier.
It is. Thank you.
So Kelsey, I'm sorry, I have a question real quick.
Yes.
In regular sick leave,
Yes.
full-time employees, do we require, in order to use that sick leave, like if I come in and I have a doctor's appointment at 2 and I leave at 1:30 and I use sick leave for that, for the remainder of my shift, do I need to bring in a doctor's note the next day to say I was there?
You only bring in doctor's notes if you miss 3 consecutive days of work. That's how and then it also says it's 3 consecutive days at the department head's discretion, because there are things where, you know, it's, hey, I'm just not feeling good. Some people don't really go to the doctors as often, so.
It can be counterproductive to require an employee to go to a doctor
every time
for a bad cold. When the doctor's not going to do a thing for them, there becomes a level of trust and of the honor system in it.
Yeah.
But it does not seem to me to be a worthwhile exercise to require it every time an employee calls us.
And by and far, our staff don't use it.
No, and I mean, I had something in here, well not in the prior handbook it said that employees may be asked to authenticate, you know, basically if they've missed an excessive amount of leave, we might ask them to go back the last 12 months and provide doctor's notes. Legit said, it's not even legal, you can't have someone go back that long and require doctor's notes, so we took that out. And then we did add in a section about domestic violence, sexual assault, you know, that someone could use sick leave to deal with issues like that, because that is something the state also recognizes, so we want to put it in ours as well.
And it ties into the sick and safe.
Yeah, sick and safe leave, it was defined in the state's language there.
Kelsey, on page 91, there's a line, sick leave may be accrued and carried over from year to year. You would strike that line if you opt for 40 hours.
Well, that's separate. That is 6.11, sick and safe leave, part-time seasonal employees. That's
No, it's above that.
Yeah, but that's for our full-time employees. They can roll over as much as they want because it goes into their Maryland State retirement.
They don't get paid out for it
They don't
at the
get paid
end,
out.
so there's, yeah.
It's a credit when they retire, so it's really only applicable to the part-time
And
seasonal.
there's no limit in that.
For the full-time, yes.
Because of the Maryland State,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So FMLA, we like broke down their act in our policy, and Mary and I were talking about it. I think we were making it a lot more complicated. We don't want to complicate it, so we're just saying, you know, as set forth by the act, instead of breaking down what they're saying, because, you know, things change and we don't want to have something in here that's not accurate.
There were parts of our policy that were no longer in compliance with the act. So if we just reference the act, we keep our, exactly.
And actually, it's going to change soon anyways because of the Maryland Time to Care Act that's going to be effective in 2024. So we're still learning about this, but basically Maryland's going to double that 12 weeks. It's going to become 24 weeks for just the state of Maryland. So we are following that because it's going to be treated kind of like unemployment tax. You're going to have to pay into it. This is new to us, but a lot of government agencies think they're going to be able to not pay into it because we have a strong sick leave, as well as they were saying you could do things like provide a short-term disability or long-term disability for your employees to not have to pay the tax for this. I'll learn more as we go. They're still training on it. They haven't even decided what language they're going with, but I'm just saying that that's going to be irrelevant soon anyways. Let's see. And then I think the only other thing, I still am not wild about bereavement, which is page 96. We did up it from 3 days to 4. We had a discussion about going to a tiered system. I know like Howard County does a tiered system, so for a parent or a child or a spouse, you get a longer period of leave. But I don't know, we went back and forth, we wanted to do that, but we also felt like who are we to define somebody's family, relationships, aunts,
Even if
raised
you
kids.
compare that to the state of Maryland, not to keep us on this, but even if you compare it to the state, it's tiered, but if you need that additional time, you
Yes.
also have FMLA.
And that's listed here as well. We say that you can use your leave as well if you need more time, and we've never told anybody no for something like that.
The hospital is tiered.
Yeah.
But you have the option to use.
Yeah, I'd like to see something like that. It's just kind of, like I said, I feel like who are we to define what somebody's relationship,
Not telling you what to do, but being that you follow, because you have to, the state as far as retirement, I would consider going along with whatever their tiered process is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it were asked, well, why did you choose the state? Well, because in other avenues, we have to, but in this you don't have to, but we chose to look into and possibly adopt their tiered system.
I will definitely check it out, because like I
It's
said,
something we really struggle trying to define, but you don't want to get into a position where you're
Yeah, I mean,
saying
that's tough.
this relationship has more value than that one
Yeah.
because of a title that's been
Yeah.
applied, step or grand or whatever. You don't.
I mean, we've had
don't go there.
employees that have a significant other, but they're not married,
Right.
but they've been together for, however many years, and we haven't denied them taking the leave, but technically it doesn't fall under bereavement, but we're getting off.
Yeah.
We're just gonna look into it a little
Yes.
bit more, but we did up it a day, but I don't know. It's something we're still kind of looking into. Other than that, the only other thing I guess that we kind of changed in 7, section 7, it was kind of straightforward, so we really didn't change much in here, but we did in 7.03, which is page 99, there was something in there about removing any disciplinary action after 6 months. So an employee could request to take something out of their file. I personally think it needs to be longer than a year, but we went to a year because we didn't want to change it so drastically. But I know that, for documentation purposes, you want at least 6 months of, documented behavior before you act on something. So I wanted to at least have a year in there, but I'm open to anything you guys think there too.
Is there a best practice?
No, I mean, like I said in here, legit just said, make sure, just for purposes of, employment and lawsuits and stuff, to try to keep at least 6 months of documentation, so.
If you could have a number, what would it be?
I'd say probably at least 2 years, I don't know. I think that if I don't know, some people have never asked me, let me take something out of my file, and other people come in every 6 months and say, hey, can I take a look at my file? Do I have anything in there that should come out? And I sit with them and we go through it, but I know, but it's.
And this is something Kelsey and I went back and forth on. I felt like 6 months was too quick, a year was a little more reasonable. I feel like people can have things going on that they can rectify in a year.
Okay, so when we make our motion, we're gonna make it with 2 years.
2 years.
Okay, I will change that. Other than that though, I guess the last thing in here was just kind of about retirement. I get a lot of employees say that they don't want me to notify their department until they're ready to, and I really do try to, I do listen to them. I don't go and back to their department. It's their news to tell, but I think a lot of people take advantage of that too and wait till 2 weeks out and tell them, and at that point we could have maybe had a replacement, at least applications or, interviews done or something like that. So I think that we've changed it in here that basically once you file, we will at least tell your department head, so that we could maybe start looking at what some options would be for the future. But and that it is irrevocable. I mean, that's Maryland State Retirement. Once you send it in, it's done. So I want to make sure that's clear in here too, that once it's submitted, it's submitted.
So once you submit the paperwork to retirement, what's the length of time typically there?
Well, Maryland says 45 days. I tell people 90 days. But I think that if you want payment when you retire, I'd go at least 90 days.
So that gives 3 months to the department head. Then,
yes.
Right?
I think that
So do you do retirement counseling, you know what I mean, because when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Is there like a okay, so let's have some conversation.
If people approach me, if people approach me, the state has like a printout that I go through with them. It breaks down 12 months out, you should look at this.
Right.
10 months out, look at this, et cetera. So it goes through things they should be doing, things we should be doing together, so yeah, but basically I don't know when people are going to retire, so I have had people come in and say, I'm going to retire next month. So, I mean,
There are also education opportunities through Maryland State Retirement, through, supplementary retirement. Yeah, there are opportunities.
Who's our vendor?
You said nationwide?
Nationwide's our vendor.
Oh, I thought you said bundle. Stop talking about bundles.
No. Close insurance.
I know what you look at for insurance.
No, Nationwide is our 457Bs.
And if you know Mary and I, we read into everything. So,
overthink is what she's saying.
This takes a very long time for us because, we really do our due diligence and we think about things and, well, what if somebody said this? Or what if someone came back with this? Who should we contact and ask if they've ever had to deal with this? So it didn't move as quickly as we had hoped, but we've had a lot going on and we overthink things a little bit. So here's what we have right now. And then the only section remaining besides, any supplementary documentation that we'll be attaching is section 3, which we've already been underway on. So it's just a matter of kind of sitting back down again and looking through it and making sure there's nothing else.
So this motion is double X?
So
Yes, because when we do the final section for approval, it'll be given a name, a number at that time.
So it would be a motion to approve section 6 and 7 with the amendment to section 7.03 to include 2 years of service record. All right, we got a motion by Councilmember Nichols, a second by Councilmember Nur. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the motion 2023-XX for section 6 and 7 with the amendment passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then up next is agenda item 3G, and that is the work session action items needing approval by the mayor and council. It says Mary's going to run point, but we're going to do it together, Mary. Do you want to make your statement?
Well, my statement, I think I've said it a few times tonight and definitely at prior meetings, 10 months. It's not a long time. I believe TVF said they believe they could have a RFP ready in about 4 weeks. At that point, you would want to take a look at it, I'm assuming, I'm making an assumption, you would want to take a look at it, so that would be at whatever council meeting that occurred at. Assuming you accept what they're recommending to go out to bid, it's a big project, it's going to be a complex project, so it's not something that can be turned around and expect competent bids within a short period of time. I would say minimum would be 6 weeks to get bids back. We typically have a caveat that work is expected to be done within 30 days of award of contract. Award of contract takes place at another council meeting. I'm very, very concerned. I'm not going to mince words on this. I am very concerned. You must be willing to give direction. Do you want them to say demolish as much as you can demolish for X dollars, or take out the center of the building with the assumption that not only the prospective buyer at this point, but any other buyer could make use of the rest of those sections of building. There's a lot more that goes into taking out just a middle level building, as you can imagine. As I said, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, but logic says that when you start removing part of a building and leaving the balance, there's a lot more work that goes into making sure that that's not just going to collapse. That's my statement. I'm
Cutting the center out of the cake is going to be challenging. I think if we choose to take cutting the center out of the cake, we need to have the person that's ready to redevelop that, because that can get very tricky very quickly. I think the decision that we all need to make is whether we move forward with us demoing the building, as Mary said, or whether we have a partner in this in a strategic way. And we need direction on that.
And I'm also going to be very forthright about this. I am not confident that even if we start this tomorrow and get it bid out in 2 months and get it started in 4 months, I am not confident that at the end of it, we are going to be guaranteed that the state is going to extend that grant. And once we've entered into a contract for that demolition, we're in that contract. It's not to say that there can't be termination clauses, but I don't want to make any mistakes that I'm sitting here and saying, oh, no problem. I'm not confident that that will be the case.
It's going to take push-ups to get it done, and it's going to probably take push-ups to get an extension.
I want to be very forthright with what we're facing here, what the potential could be.
So based on what Mary just said, we could be paying Palmer for not being able to leverage this grant.
I want to say that if this group moves forward.
Well, no, that's not what would happen, because that's a contingency that has to go through to make this contract enforceable. If the grant goes by to the sidelines, then he can get out of the contract. Right. And we're left holding the bag.
All the way around, right, literally.
So during the work session, we framed up a draft contract. What I would like to do is get that in order to a point where Palmer, between now and our first meeting in September, says, I'm good with the terms. And then us to have that on as an actionable item before the mayor and council at our first meeting in September. From there, before we act, I think we should have a public comment period to hear from the residents. But we need to make a decision on which way to go. And with that being said, If we're saying, hey, look, all things are pointing toward entering into a contract with CVP, we need to be transparent about that. And then that gets us rolling on the ball to be able to get DBF in place where they can start having a conversation about scoping that out for us. These things need to be pursued together. We can't take one and then the other. We don't have time.
I will tell you, I can't support that contract at all. I think giving up $400,000 is just ridiculous.
And that is in the EDU portion, correct?
I would like to draw this correlation or analogy. If you were selling your home and the land that it sits on, and you said the price is $100,000, and just numbers, but it's really $17,000 more because I'm also charging you for the EDU. That's how I'm looking at it. The EDU is attached to the property.
Giving it to me.
No, we're not.
No, it's what you would do in the normal course of sale of a piece of land. If any of you decided to sell your home, you would not charge an additional fee for the EDUs that are attached to it. And every one of your homes has an EDU attached to it. That's my only
But you're
awareness.
He's a commercial.
I understand.
But and the other side
I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I'm just trying to draw an analogy.
These weren't like magically found EDUs.
But
These were, no, hold on one second. These were EDUs that the town purchased with the parcel. It was known that the site had EDUs.
Right.
It's
We didn't
not,
know until recently.
that's not entirely true.
Don't you think those EDUs were not included in what we paid?
That's what I'm saying. We paid the same for those EDUs as what we would in essence be passing along. The other thing is, Councilmember Orris, I think, and Councilmember Nichols, I think we discussed EDUs briefly associated with the property with our subcommittee a long, long time ago. That property has always had EDUs assigned to it.
I think we need an advisory committee.
Mayor,
Right.
I suggest that the appraisal should have been done in conjunction with EDUs on site. The appraisal is done on what we have, the land and the building. Right now, this price is below what this value of this land with EDUs works. That's where we stand.
And I don't know if I fully agree with that, because I think that building in the scope of using the available EDUs, to your point, they have to still, to Councilmember Nichols' point, they still have to pay the water side.
For sure.
And if we have the caveat in there of a site plan that we have to agree on together with the ability to pull those back, it's not $400,000 lost. And at the end of the day, what is the tax revenue on a $1.2 million parcel of property? You'll be pulling a substantial chunk of change in getting that back on the tax rolls.
So since we touched tax,
Go ahead.
we're going into commercial development. And business owners can support me, knowing that first 3 years, is going to be probably losses for all of the businesses. The real estate tax is going to be minimum, very minimum. Then going into the next 3 years of commercial properties, every single business owner can apply and reduce it because of the income. So when we think about the real estate tax, it's not going to be enough to even pave that road that we're talking about.
Not even, at least
And we
6
know
or 7
that.
years.
Yes, we're going to receive revenue from real estate tax, bigger than what we have right now in place. But it's going to be around 16, 20,000 from the whole entire development. That's how I calculate my number. It's not even going to be enough to pick up the trash on that road.
The real property tax isn't based on the sale price, it's based on the assessed value. So,
But
there's
that's
a
not
difference
true.
there as well.
No, it's not. The first year, it is on the sale. The first 3 years, the assessable rate is the sale cost. From there, after reassessment, it's based on assessment. But the first time, it's on the transaction price.
So let's make sure with these numbers, we're throwing out that we're giving away 440,000. So 36 sewer EDUs at the rate that's been stipulated is 441,000. The water EDUs at the rate that's been stipulated is 159,000. So we're talking $281,736. That's so worth it to me, considering the risk of that property and the demolition. I am so sorry. it's risk versus reward to me.
Listen, don't be sorry if that's how you feel.
That's how I feel, and I just, it's risk versus reward, and I don't see that parcel 57 as a land of opportunity for the town of Berlin.
You don't see it as a land of opportunity?
I do not see it as a land of opportunity for the town of Berlin. I see it as a...
Tell me the risk you are concerned with.
Oh my gosh. First off, that $500,000 doesn't take care of the demolition. I feel like tonight, if we don't proceed, at least with a consensus to move the contract forward to 2 weeks from now, then we have to go towards knocking down what we can. I mean, I think I'm right? You just stated it pretty clearly.
I would like to say that personally, I would like to say if you don't make a decision tonight, I have said it, I'm not confident that you'll be able to.
So,
if you wait until September 11th,
that's either way.
It will be too late.
But then the thing is like to not act is an action. You're basically giving the $500,000 back to the state.
No.
Yes.
We're saying if we don't move forward with Palmer's contract,
do it ourselves.
No, that's not what Steve said.
Steve said, move forward with Palmer.
Right.
And we 2 weeks discuss. Dean says, cut the Palmer deal.
Right. No, that's
Jay
what you said. I said, what
said?
difference it make? Correct. What difference?
Time.
After time's up on us, it's time's up on Palmer.
But the difference is that the time is not up if we act. We need action.
Well, the action I would suggest is
not
not going forward with Palmer.
Okay. So then you are not in favor of CPP at all?
No, I'm not.
So you're a no when the contract's here in September?
Yes.
Are we making a motion tonight? Because we said we need to make some decisions.
You put it on as a
I do not
placeholder.
want to proceed
You
with
do not want to
Palmer.
proceed at
I
all.
think we're just giving this thing away. Just think about his getting, and he said that the 1.2 is really not a good number for him because those folks said the lot would be totally cleared for the 1.2.
That's what they based it on.
That's what they said, and he said that's not a good number for him. But he's getting the $400,000 of EDUs, and he's getting the $500,000 of grant. And you said what you said earlier. I wonder if this grant is for, wait a minute, I got to get this right. I wonder if this grant can be used to offset a cost of a developer. Because if this grant was not available, he would have to pay for
We would be, so the thing is we would not, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not giving this as an offset cost. We, the town of Berlin, will be demoing the site to Palmer's specifications with the understanding that he is buying that property following the demolition.
But if the grant was not available, would not that be a cost?
And if that grant doesn't,
Yeah, but that's why
cancels out.
But that's why, hold on, that's why the grant exists, is because it recognizes, where is it? It says it right in here. It recognizes that fund aims to improve economic viability of gray field development, which often faces more barriers than sprawling greenfield development. That's why this exists in the first place, is to do what we are trying to do with Coastal Ventures property.
Not the only
You're not
reason,
going to
though.
change my mind.
That's understandable. I'm just making sure that you know the information.
I understand what I understand.
Okay.
So what are we doing, fellas?
Well,
also
I got a
want to
no
thank-
from Dean and I got a no from Jay. That means that we need 3 potential yeses to the draft that we discussed.
I'm a yes.
I would like to talk about the EDU real quick.
Mayor,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hold on
Did you
one
use, It's just public works building.
I'm thinking that.
We don't have anything left.
But let's figure out where we're going here first.
So, I mean, and I'm trying to hear everybody, and I listen to everybody, and everyone's like, oh, he's getting $400,000 in EDUs. So, I'm just gonna go. let's lessen the EDUs, move them to another parcel and leave them 10.
But why would you do that?
I don't think we can.
Can we do that?
He
I
told
don't think
you,
we can.
he told you he's not gonna be down for that either.
So is that, I mean, is it actually in the RFP? I don't have it printed out to look.
I'm not sure.
Because
I can't
that's
swear
there.
whether EDUs
Right now,
are
they're
mentioned
attached
or
to
not.
that one parcel, and I didn't think
57.
we could.
We've even explored where they're attached
move
to.
them. I don't know if that's, I don't know.
I just
I do
don't
need
know
more
the
info
answer
on
to
it.
that.
I mean, I don't understand what the issue, he
Not
can't sell them.
convinced this is the best project for Berlin. I mean, big restaurants and stuff, it will compete with downtown. I mean, I believe we're at a saturation point with restaurants.
I'll put it to you like
Someone
this,
fresh
we can talk to her green in the face on the type of
You wanna add
restaurant we'd
all
like
this?
to
I
have, but
think
if
the
that
town
type
can do
does
better.
not come forth.
We only did
we put
restaurants
there
because we
what
told
comes.
them.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes, but
the only reason why-
when we tried to pin him down tonight, okay, tell us what you're gonna put in there. What's your intent? He was vague.
Well, we don't know.
Chasing his tail.
We have literally led this, chasing our tail. I mean, I really don't, how would he know what we want? Because we don't, that's what I'm saying.
Well, hold
Yeah.
on,
But-
Steve,
That's what I'm saying.
this individual is extremely intelligent. I'm not taking anything from that intelligence. This man came with files from this property from back when it was still Tyson. He came with magazine or newspaper article clippings that the governor says blah, blah, blah. He knows what he wants. He has an idea up here what he wants. They have an idea as whatever they call themselves, coastal ventures or what have you, what they would like. What I'm saying is, we might not know what it is, but I have a feeling that they know what it is. And I am not. I say no, and I've said no, and I feel no, and I don't want to agree to this.
Well, I think the goal tonight was to get a direction so that we can move forward with the demo, right? So we have three.
We have 3 no's.
Three no's.
We have 3 no's.
Now, my question to the 3 no's is where are we coming up, what does this look like for us? So are we saying, is the action item, thank you, but no thank you to
Yes.
Coastal Ventures Properties?
Yes.
And if so, then what is the pathway for Heron Park?
May I speak?
Go ahead.
So my thought on this is, if we only have 500,000 or 400, whatever the $1,000 is, that we already know that cannot demolish the entire property, right?
Correct.
We don't want to cut out the middle, correct? Because you just said the whole cake's possibly going to crumble. So what I think I know, and I may be wrong, that front part of that building can stand on its own without the back. Chop off everything that's behind, if that will fit inside that parameter of 400, whatever the $1,000 is. Leave the front, which was the office space and whatever, I think it's the cafeteria. It's been forever since I've been inside this place. That, from what I remember, and I could very well be wrong, is the most sound part of that building. That itself could be salvageable and either leased, rented, or whatever you want to do with it, public works. Take off the middle and the back, as much of that as you can, and go from there. That's my thought.
I agree.
So if there's additional funding that's needed in excess of the grant, where is the money going to come from? I'm with Steve. I see nothing but risk there. And my appetite is the same as his. And I understand, I think, Jack, you talked about the reserves. I do not feel comfortable taking money out of our reserves that we have worked hard to establish for this building.
Well, let it sit.
Oh,
I think you put out the RFP to demo the building and see where it comes in.
The whole thing.
And then we can adjust it accordingly. If it's gonna cost more, then we say, okay, just take down X portion.
for the record, I am not in agreement with that. I'm with Steve on this one.
I have to agree with Councilmember Morris and Councilmember Green. But if you all make a motion, you have every right to do so. But we do need action.
I'm not saying to let it sit, that's not my thought at all. What I'm saying is, like I stated, as much of it starting from the back, as much of that up towards the front that can be taken off, cleaned, secured, what is left, that's what I say do. I'm not saying leave it looking like a bomb site. That's not what I'm thinking in the least bit.
You might end up with it.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but if it comes to that, then we need to see. But if it doesn't, we've never tried. That's all I'm saying.
But understand-
I don't feel, I hear you. I'm hearing what you're saying as far as understanding, but at the same time, We've said we wanted to hear what the public said. 98% of those folks who have sat in this audience and those who stop us on the street every day say, don't sell this because we're still paying the debt. I hear you when you say some people don't, but at the same time, if you're putting this, today it sounded like, and people out here and even some people out in the world were saying, it sounds so rush, rush, rush. If those people feel like we are rushing to pass this on, just to pass it on because of the time, that again makes it look that it's not something that we're completely comfortable with, but we're doing it because of the time frame.
Right.
And that's not right.
I'm doing it because I trust the developer, quite frankly, I trust the
I'm
purchaser.
not saying I don't trust him, but at the
Quite
same
frankly, I
time.
don't agree with this direction. This process, oh my goodness gracious. We had a process tonight where a developer came in and put forward a sketch plan incomplete. I mean, really, truthfully, we've kind of violated the extended negotiation period by just entertaining bids and thoughts from the competing developer. The process has just been so disturbing, from the RFP to the, the process of the subcommittees with not wanting residential. That was like a deal breaker. Now it's back on the table tonight. But I think I'm at peace with knowing that we're moving forward with action on that property, because that's really the goal, was to not waste the demo grant, and we still may, but I just hope we're making the right decision. I do hope there's a land use committee at some point in the future that we do move forward. I think we could have done that land use committee with still selling 57 and allowing that all to move forward.
Yeah, because 410 was open for all sorts of opportunities.
Right.
We didn't pull it to say nothing's ever going to happen. We pulled it because we said that there's a better path forward in the future.
I feel like we're back to where we started. Purchased the properties in 2016. I will knock the building down and spent $300,000 on a chemical cleanup. That wasn't any fault of our own for vendor, but well, look, from here on, hopefully the process will improve, and I sure hope I'm wrong.
I really hope so.
I hope you're wrong too.
I really hope so, and I also hope the next time we go for bid or proposals for this property, that we as a town know what we want. We had a developer sit in here and tell us and asked us this evening, what do you want? We don't know.
Because every time we talk about it, we say something different. And the developer has even said that. You all, being us, wrote the RFP and included the intended uses. We did that. We said what we wanted. The public said what they wanted. I'm not going to split hairs. I hope we can make this work.
After we're not splitting hairs, or was it what you wanted?
What I want is, I think what Steve also just said, something that's viable, that makes good use. I've said since day one, Vice President, what I want. And that was to present two pathways forward. And that was one, with a developer partner, or two, with us doing it ourselves. The only thing I've ever asked.
You had third vote saying we
make a motion.
Want to proceed.
It's the correct thing to do is to cut the cord with CBD.
I move that we do not proceed with Palm.
Okay, I have a motion.
And let me put the second part, and that the town of Berlin proceed with all haste in implementing this grant for the movement of as much as possible.
I have a motion by Vice President Burrow.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Let the record reflect that the motion to say thank you but no thank you to Coastal Ventures Properties and proceed with the demolition grant to its fullest extent for parcel 57 passes 3-2 with Councilmember Green and Orris opposed.
So do we need to pass a motion to end the EMP, or do we just do that?
I think we just did that.
I think you just did.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's up?
Can I say something? Maybe, I'm sorry.
It's completely
I'll
not
make
the
a
right
motion.
time, but go ahead.
She's the only one here. She's a volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay, I just saw the the fund tonight, and the first paragraph of the guidelines of this fund clearly state that this demo is supposed to be a catalyst activity that accelerates economic development and job production in the existing Maryland communities. The fund aims to improve the economic viability of the, quote, gray field development, which often faces more barriers than sprawling, quote, greenfield development. Since funds are still limited, awards will focus on those projects that can have high economic and revitalization impact on their existing communities. Now, maybe I'm not reading this right, but doesn't this say if we use this demo that we need to have something in place, like some sort of economic plan, you know, like retail or something there that provides jobs and some sort of economy to fit within the guidelines of the grant?
I think you're reading that accurately, and I think that coming
So
in.
that's not the totality of that grant, that's a piece.
No, but I asked
That is-
Lottie, and
that's the
obviously
cover
that
sheet.
was a big part of it.
That's a huge part of it, and you are correct. The other thing is that where that really plays into a factor is in the event that we cannot move this quickly enough, and we have to go before DHCD to ask for an extension. Not meeting that criteria will likely result in us having the $500,000 pulled.
But if we went back and we refocused on just this lot 57, and I'm not saying sell it or don't, and I know the economics of the $440,000, but we don't even know if the $500,000 is going to take down the middle section and what the economic, like what the environmental impact, if any. We might sit there and say, okay, let's forget the 440,000. Palmer, go back to Palmer and say, look, you said you're going to put $500,000 into this. Why don't you guarantee us that $500,000? And if we don't need to use it on the demo, you give it to us to buy the EDUs or whatever's left over or something like that. But I just hate to see us lose this grant because of something stupid that we didn't follow the guidelines that we agreed to.
The only discussion here now is whether we move forward with Palmer or implement the grant ourselves, because the same time frame we're under is the same time frame Palmer would be.
Yeah, but according to the guidelines for the grant that we applied for, that we got, we're not following the guidelines that they've given us that we agreed to follow.
But we actually are, because when we applied for that grant, there was no possibility of anybody looking at nor purchasing, because this was applied for before any of this, Palmer, Natelli, any of those guys came into play. This was done long before then to make the space economically viable for either sale or the park use. And those two statements were what was in that grant itself. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to have a buyer on the table at the time that we demolish. I'm not being rude to you, but what it's saying, and I need those folks out there to hear this too, what it's saying is by using this grant to demolish, we're making it clear so that we can try to sell the place. Not just that we have to have a sale on the table at the time. Is that correct? Am I right? I wish you were sitting here when I.
I've never heard that.
That's what it's saying.
The three of you want to sell it after it's demoed?
That's not, I mean.
I never heard that.
We never said that we didn't want to.
You don't want to sell it, right?
We never said that we didn't want to sell it ever, but what we're saying is, this right here may not be, and countless folks have said, this may not be the right move for us because it's counterproductive to supposedly what the true deal here is, clearing up the net.
It's done.
Before we move forward with the final RFP advertising, bidding, contract, we will talk to DHCD and ask them, if we don't have a plan in place at this moment, can we still proceed with the demolition? Because I don't want to get partway into this project and have them say, you are no longer fulfilling the terms of the grant.
I don't want to put words in their mouth.
I don't want to put words in their mouth.
I don't either, but do we want to get to a point where we expended a lot of money?
But I think that your question is a very smart one to
Well,
have.
why didn't we ask this question months ago?
I think that we
That's,
have.
that's.
I think that we
No,
have.
I'm not being rude, I'm not at all, but my thing is, when those two gentlemen first sat at these two tables, we knew at that time that there was a possibility that we didn't accept either one of them. So at that moment, why didn't we say then, if a plan C should have been, if we're not going to accept either one of
No,
these guys, will we be able to?
Mary's question is about whether or not we will be able to extend it.
Okay.
Mary?
No.
That's not what her
no.
question is.
My question is, we will call DHCD and say, we no longer have a solid plan, we're no longer.
I wouldn't do that.
That's a mistake.
I wouldn't do that.
That's a big mistake.
Yeah, I would not do that. We have, right now, the path forward,
Give me my money.
right now, the path forward, as Ivy read the grant, meets the criteria.
Yes, it does.
But, I have my personal views on it, but I think it does meet the criteria. Now,
I just want to be confident
Mayor, we
about that.
have an approval before we went into negotiation.
With any of them.
We had that approval for the grant, way before we were trying to sell this lots.
we do.
And if we do have with a plan of demolishing as much as we can, utilizing $500,000, then reconsidering rephrasing that property with the EDUs added and half of the property demolished. I'm sorry, but I'm all about the money here. If we have that debt, we need to get every single dollar to close that debt in the bank, to move forward, whether with the developer or without. We're talking about advancing money from reserve or not. Construction of a road will require us full money from the reserve, regardless of the outcome.
No, not necessarily. There's pathways forward. That is not a factual statement.
Yeah,
But
it's-
for right
I think
now,
that's
that
getting too
property
far
has
ahead
a
of
lot
where we
more
are.
value on the table.
That's
I know
neither,
you don't
neither
agree
here,
with
it's
me,
neither
I'm
here
just-
nor there. The thing is that the economic point, I don't agree with the three prevailing council members, but they did say that they are still open to economic possibilities on the site. I think it does meet the criteria.
I will reread it very carefully.
Well, yeah, we're not asking you to do anything that is.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that, I just don't want to get partway down the road and find out that DHCD disagrees with our position.
But I wouldn't ask for that.
But I want to be clear that
Because
I'm
we have
sure
the
Palmer
grant.
and CVP know, but tomorrow morning they will have an email saying that we're done. That's what everybody
And full
agrees on.
disclosure to anybody out there in TV land, Palmer included, thank you for being here all this time. However, I don't want anybody out there to think that this decision just happened tonight because Jack Burbidge showed up with paperwork, because that is not where this is coming from. It's not at all.
All right, so, up next is agenda item number 4. Yep, we got a busy night. For a discussion on council AV upgrade.
Can we table it?
I don't think it's smart, we need to, what's that?
I think I can summarize fairly quickly.
We're here, let's just.
Let's get it done.
The equipment, we have talked to different communities, what equipment they use to run their mayor and council meeting, and it ties everything together. The packet handling, the live streaming, the records, it all ties together. The majority of communities use a program called Granicus. The parent company is Swagit. There are several links that if you go to the online packet, you can follow to take a look at what other communities' packets look like under this system. It's robust, it's user-friendly, it looks good, it's a big deal. However, the equipment they quoted us at about $84,000. The annual subscriptions is about $51,000. So it's a big move. However, we can have them come, demonstrate their system, and you can ask them questions about what they might be able to trim out, eliminate, that might bring that price down. But it is still going to be a hefty price.
Is that subscription price going to be the same regardless of pretty much.
Well, you have to
That's
have the
just a
equipment or
subscription.
you're subscribing to nothing.
And it goes up every year.
Yes, of
I
course
think
it does.
it's your recommendation is to have them come in and.
If you're
yeah.
even interested in talking about it.
Well, I think, I think we're going from the Pinto to the, like, so, so I don't think we need to
But
go
there's
that
not
much.
much in between.
Right, no, I hear you. But I mean, I think, like 5 cameras, do we need, I don't need my own camera.
No, thank you.
We
No,
can share.
the 5 no,
Even
the
at
5
5.
cameras are not this.
Even at 5, it wasn't
cameras
gonna get you.
are The dais, the speaker's table, the department head tables, and one other that I'm not sure about. Maybe there's 2 others.
So the county did it,
Look at what the other communities have.
I think maybe that's what everybody should do. Like, I live on these platforms, and the county, they 6 years ago bought it for $52,800, and they have a monthly. They added an amount that for storage, and each meeting does cost. I mean, it is incredibly pricey. I would actually have them come in. I think your recommendation was good to have them come in and let us, whittle through this. Because at $50,000 a year is a penny, and I don't think any of us have that.
But I will say that out of $84,000, eliminating a camera or 2
Right.
is not gonna make that much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
that
more or
means
less
it's
we
enough.
wanted to get the temperature of where
Yeah.
everybody was
Yeah.
on, like, you feeling down this road, or are you feeling like, hey, go back and re-roof?
For me, what I'm just gonna say is, I think this is a little too much than what I had in mind for what we're
I'm
looking
following up
for.
the Pinto right now.
I mean, if we could spend $80,000 on new microphones and speakers, it would probably.
But see, that's the thing. We've had Mid-South come in. It's not about the microphones and speakers. It's about the shape of the room, the low ceiling, long room. This is about as good as the audio system is going to
I think we
be.
were actually told that they would, in their recommendation, keep the same exact microphone.
Yeah.
In the last time we did this, they said that these were what they would recommend.
When we first had this system,
But, I mean,
when we first had the system installed, the biggest problem that we kept facing was feedback. We've got it pretty much where it's gonna be.
All right.
I'm not saying that's 100%, we could have Mid-South or another company come in and look at it again, but I don't think you're gonna see much change from
and I will
what
say
you
that
got.
at the Senate thing, I don't know what they did, but I had no, and I was, and one of our residents who talks about microphone use, talks about microphone use, was right beside me, and there was no problems.
That's what they did.
They used the
They
microphone.
did this.
Yeah, they used
So
our-
maybe that's just something we need to do. I mean, I'll go with.
They used our equipment.
Yeah, I'll go with what the
They
group
used
wants to
our
do,
mics and
but-
speakers.
I just think it's kind
Now,
of.
the one addition is that if we scrap this, which I agree is too expensive,
It's just too much.
the thing we could do, I'd like to get that out of the walkway. If we could get a fixed point camera, because right now you get one view. If we could just get one that goes right up in the top, that's a pan and tilt, we can still get that same vantage point. It cleans up the line and get it so that it ties in with the audio system, and that we can just stream. I mean, literally, you would just put a pan tilt camera in the top instead of the microphone.
And a clip-on microphone, so you guys
No,
cannot.
not happening.
You cannot, not speak.
We're gonna give Natalie the joystick so she can move the camera.
See, and that's part of it.
Well, you get it fixed.
No,
There
but keep in
are
mind,
people
part of what
watching right
Granicus
now.
is
You wanna
offering
put
you
it in
is,
perspective.
they've got
Some of
somebody
them
in
are
Texas or
not
Utah or Colorado watching your
Hold
meeting
on.
and operating all of that.
Yeah, let's listen to Mary. That's that annual subscription.
Right.
It's basically a salaried person.
No, thank you.
But I think that, to Steve's point, let's get the Pinto in the ceiling
Yeah.
and then call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. When that's the thing, that's the point of the dialogue, right? If you say that there's, we have them in and it's a waste of time, it's gonna be $3,000, we can whittle it down.
Yeah,
It's not worth it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna be expensive.
yeah.
And I think we could probably better allocate some of that money.
That's why I was wondering, what can we do with the ARPA funds?
Well, let's see where the projects come in. We've got a little bit of time. I know you're so quick to go to storm water. Let's see where the projects come in and then let's go from there. We have some
Steve,
time.
did you say
on our side.
demo? You're funny.
Oh,
Too soon,
Movie.
too soon.
And my chuckle was not at your comment of a fixed camera, it was just picturing that cell phone being like fixed.
Yeah, we're not attaching the Pinto to the ceiling.
The ladder out
Just
the
like the
gate.
tripod.
Up you go.
It'll pop out of the ceiling. We have been here
That's
too
for
long.
my
Hey,
favorite.
Steve
All right.
got you climbing a
Up
ladder.
next, agenda item, Mary, thank you for your work on that. It
Yes,
goes a
thank
long
you.
way. Agenda item number 5, PJM quarterly report. Tim?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening, thank you.
We're required to, since we're a member of PJM, just to let everyone here in the room and plus the ones listening, PJM is a regional transmission organization that coordinates the movement of wholesale power within 13 states, which is Delaware, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, D.C. We are a member of PJM, so we're required to, in a public setting, I have to go over the quarterly report for PJM activities. This is for April through June of 2023. In April, energy sold was 2,831,022 kWh. May was 2,902,257. June was 3,416,541. The total was 9,149,820. The amp bill was a total of 437,325. PJM charges were 146,488. PJM ARR credit, that's a credit back to us, is $54,006. Fuel, lube, and other costs for the power plant, which includes annual net meter settlement and renewable energy costs, for those 3 months was $127,448. Total power cost was $657,255. The cost per kWh sold was 0.07183. That's my report.
Thank you. Do we have to adopt that or pass anything, or is it just an acknowledgement? Gaskell, Mary? I think it's just acknowledgement.
It's just a report.
Just information.
Thank you. All right. I'm just making sure it's that. Up next, thank you, Tim.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having me.
Up next, agenda item number 7, any comments from the public? Seeing none, any comments from the council? Vice President Burrow?
Yes, sometimes I get excited.
You yell inside?
I yell inside.
He yells inside.
You know, I made a statement that I need to change. My statement was, just let it sit. But I should have finished my sentence and said, just let it sit until we as a town decide on what we want to do with it. That's all I can do.
Thank you. Councilmember Nur?
No comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Nichols?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said a lot tonight.
Councilmember Orris?
Just wanted to clarify, Councilmember Vice President Burrell's motion had 2 parts. It was cease the contract talk and move forward with the RFP. My no vote was for the ceasing of the talks, but I am for the development and with all haste for the RFP to get that going. So I think that's all I have for tonight.
Councilmember Green?
Yeah, I think I actually agree with that 100%. And look, I'm a passionate person, I live my life with passion, so please don't take anything I say the wrong way. Respect all of you. Just disagree on that matter, and hope you're right and I'm wrong.
Well, thank you. Up next are comments from the mayor. I will echo my colleagues to the right and say that, do you mind? Here we go. I will say that even though I have a different view on how we should have proceeded forward, don't let that lead anyone to believe that we will not move forward with this demolition to the best of our ability to meet the parameters of the grant and hopefully get it done with the available funds we have. We all want to see that project, being Heron Park, become a success and not be an eyesore anymore. That's first and foremost. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Up next, I do want to say that our next meeting is business professional. We said that we'd go casual from the adoption of the budget to Labor Day. Labor Day is right around the corner this weekend, right?
Monday.
Yeah, Monday. So with that being said, town offices are closed on Monday, but our next meeting will be business professional. That's really all I have. Well, actually, no, I have one more thing. For those folks coming and going, utilizing North Main Street, you'll notice something slightly different. That is a Town of Berlin flag flying at the War Memorial. So I want to say thank you to Councilmember Nur helping us in conjunction with Sarah from the Mayor's office get the flags in time so that we have a Town of Berlin flag behind us and one flying, at least for the first time I know of, in Berlin at the War Memorial. So, well, in general, just a town flag flying outside of our council chambers. So, thank you to all of you for approving an official town flag, and thank you to Councilmember Nur and Sarah for getting us those flags in time. That's everything I have.
No, you don't.
I think she has one.
No, the letter of support.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. See, what would you do without an amazing help? Now I gotta find it.
Here.
Hold on, I got it close around here, I think. Oh, yes, there we are. Thank you, Sarah. So, last thing is, I have a request from all of you to approve a letter of support for We Heart Berlin's request for funding for a skate park to the Humphreys Foundation. It says, "Dear Foundation Board, it is a pleasure to be writing on behalf of the residents, business community, and visitors of Berlin to express our support for a skate park in the town of Berlin. Last year, the Mayor and Council and the Parks Commission identified a skate park as a priority for our community. During the Mayor and Council meeting on Monday, August 21st, 2023, the Mayor and Council unanimously passed a motion supporting the future location of a skate park on parcel 410 at Heron Park. Over the past year, We Heart Berlin has worked with the Business, Economic, and Community Outreach Network, Beacon, the folks over here helping us with our strategic plan, at Salisbury University and Spawn Ranch Consultants to complete a feasibility study, identify potential locations, and develop a design for a skate park in Berlin. The town is pleased to partner with a nonprofit and grassroots community organization, We Heart Berlin, in order to bring this project to fruition. With the generous support and engagement of our partners like the Humphreys Foundation, we believe this initiative can positively impact and enrich the lives of Berlin residents for years to come. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Mayor Zak.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second by Councilmember Orris. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Mary, you have a copy?
Yes.
Thank you. We appreciate your work too.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Up next is comments from the press. Seeing none.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Second by Councilmember Nur, and everybody was in.
Does anyone have those? No, I want to
No. That's why I almost don't even call for a second. Sorry. Anybody that does, that's what the crowd now is for.